Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now guys, this video is pretty much a plague on both their houses. So this video is pretty much about a plague on both their houses. So Bukola Saraki and the Saraki family are a Barao family and a Barao people, and Bukola Saraki of course is a Barao. The Saraki family have been looting from the public from God knows how long. We all remember how they completely looted dry that Society General Bank and just walked away. He did the same thing for 8 years in Kwara State, and he's been doing the same thing as the Senate President since. So a plague on his house, but then Malam Buhari that is chasing him, a plague on his house too. He's been looting the Nigerian state since the 70s and the 80s when all that money was missing, when he was the petroleum minister under the Obasanjo military regime, and he's been looting ever since. So a plague on his house too. So now this battle line between Saraki and Buhari is one that is going to continue to run and run. So but Saraki has had several days in court. They've yet to find anything against him because it's constantly being adjudicated in favor of, but then they'll go on after him anyway, irrespective of what the courts say. So guys, I bring you this. EFCC seizes Saraki's properties in Lagos. So EFCC seizes Saraki's properties in Lagos. Saraki said he has been tried, discharged and acquitted over the same property. So the property in question is what he's talking about. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has reportedly seized some properties belonging to the Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki. According to the correspondent, the houses located at 15A, 15B and 17 McDonald Road, Ikoyi, Lagos, belong to the Senate President. The correspondent also reports that the EFCC decided to place inscriptions and stickers on all the houses because they are not sure about which of the properties actually belong to Saraki. The Senate President, according to reports, declared 15A and 15B in his asset declaration form. However, it is believed that some houses on the street also belong to him. The houses are said to have been bought by Saraki from the Presidential Implementation Committee for the Sale of Government Properties through shell companies. Saraki's relative, who did not want his name to be mentioned, told the correspondent about the properties on Friday, May 10, 2019. The EFCC have been making inquiries into the finances and assets of Saraki for quite some time. They came to inscribe EFCC under investigation in red on the walls and fences. The irony is that even houses that don't belong to Saraki are marked. From what we were told, they are keeping him under strict surveillance ahead of May 29 when they may invite him, he said. During Saraki's trial in 2016 at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the EFCC, according to the correspondent, presented evidence before the court alleging that the former governor of Kwara State owned houses on McDonald Road, but there were discrepancies in the addresses. The EFCC witness during the trial, Michael Wetkas, had said investigations showed that the house number 15 McDonald Road, Ikoyi, Lagos, and block 15, flat 1 to 4 on the same street belongs to Saraki. He said Saraki bought the properties from the Presidential Committee on Sale of Federal Land Properties in Lagos through his companies. Corroborating his claim, Wetkas said when the EFCC wrote to the Presidential Committee to seek clarification about a property sold to Trinity Company Limited, a company Saraki declared in his asset declaration form, the committee replied that from their record, the only property sold to the company was number 15 McDonald Road, Ikoyi. Wetkas also said 123.7 million was paid for house 15 McDonald's Ikoyi through a bank draft from the account of one of Saraki's companies called Skyview Properties Limited in Access Bank. My lord, there was a draft of 12.8 million and another draft of 20 million from Zenith Bank, as well as a draft of 4 million from GT Bank as part of payments for the purchase of House 17 McDonald Road. The 20 million draft came from Kyler's Properties and Investment Limited, and a draft of 136.1 million was made on January 13, 2007 for the purchase of the property. Another draft of 180.6 million was made through Saraki's personal bank account in GTB, the witness said. However, whilst responding to EFCC's allegations against him over the properties, the Senate President said he had been tried, discharged and acquitted on the same properties. Speaking through his media aide, Yusuf Olaniyono, Saraki, according to the correspondent, said he had never seen a place where someone who had been declared innocent over a particular issue by the highest court in a country would still be prosecuted over the same issue. He said, if you look and check at the addresses of the properties they have marked, they are the same properties that forms the basis of his arraignment before the Code of Conduct Tribunal and the case dragged to the Supreme Court. So if the highest court in the land had adjudicated and made a pronouncement on an issue, can it be reopened? It is still a reinforcement of the statement we issued earlier in the week. Recall that the EFCC recently launched a fresh investigation against Saraki over allegation of money laundering. The investigation dates back to 2003 when he was governor of Kwara State. The Anti-Graft Agency has also written a letter to Kwara State government to provide details of Saraki's earnings, salaries, allowances, and ESTA codes during his 8th year as governor of the state. You will also recall that Dr. Bukola Saraki was governor of Kwara State between 2003 and 2011. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The EFCC continues to pursue this guy, and they have now gone to mark as assets in Ikoyi. They've marked about 3 or 4 properties, and they are not sure even if these properties belong to him. And if some of these properties do not belong to him, then they would have marked somebody else's property in error. So that is the one thing. And then the second thing is, these properties that is being now marked as being under investigation had previously been investigated, and matters had been brought to court, and those matters have gone through the court system of Nigeria up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court had adjudged that there was no case to answer. So now, if the Supreme Court had made a decision on these properties that there was no case to answer on these properties, what then is the EFCC doing marking these properties again? So this is really another instance of an abuse of power and a disregard for the rule of law, which is now something we've now come to expect of the Buhari regime. Like I said, I started off by saying a plague on both their houses, because I am no supporter of Bukola Saraki, because he's a corrupt man and they are right to investigate him for corruption, because that guy and his family, as I said, have been looting the Nigerian state, especially Kwara State, for God knows how long. For as long as I've been able to pick up a newspaper and read, I've been reading about the Saraki family looting Kwara State. So they've been at it for long enough, and they should be investigated. So that's separate. So a plague on his house. But if the highest court in the land had judged a particular case and found not guilty, what then is the EFCC doing? What does Ibrahim Magu know? higher than more than the Supreme Court, to then say that his will hold. What law does Buhari know that is higher than the law of the land? Because if the president, if the president is not operating above the law of the land or higher than the law of the land, then he's effectively a law unto himself. And this is something that I've been trying to highlight for a long time now. These people have an abject disregard for the rule of law, and this doesn't really portend well for democracy or for a civilized form of governance. Because if you have no regard for the rule of law and you just pick and choose the laws that you are going to obey and adhere to, then you effectively have a dictatorship. If you have no regard for the rule of law, then you effectively have a dictatorship. If the law courts give a judgment and you say you don't like that judgment, therefore you're not going to follow it, then you effectively have a dictatorship. Because if the rule of law is not sacrosanct, then there's really no point in having any laws at all. This is really the position. So now what says you? Disregard for the rule of law by the EFCC, but then of course that template had already been set by Buhari. So now we are now in new territory now in Nigeria. So what is your reading of this situation and this pursuit of Bukola Saraki? Conversations in the comment section. But before you come join me in the comment section to have that conversation, click on the red subscribe button so it goes gray, bell button so you are notified every time I drop a new video. Then come have a chat with me about this in the comment section. So I'll leave you here, meet you in the comment section, but here I say peace.